Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. So another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. We've got a big pay-per-view, PLE if you will, this weekend. Money in the Bank. Cannot wait. Saturday, 3 p.m. start times in London. Should be a hot crowd. We have Josh Isenberg coming up in a couple of minutes. Him and I discuss the entire card, predictions, opinions, what's going to happen going even towards SummerSlam. A lot of good stuff. Always fun having Josh on the show. Before we get to that, I'd just like to address Forbidden Door because we had the Money in the Bank predictions this week. Next week is too far removed, I think, from Forbidden Door just to discuss the show. But I also didn't want to overflow this prediction show with that material. So I did want to just give my thoughts. I thought it was a really fun show. The highlights, of course, CM Punk is clearly a heel with every fan group that's not in Chicago. That's exciting. MJF looked great as always, and now he's going to work with Adam Cole in certain ways. We'll get to that again. We'll talk about a lot of this stuff next week in the normal Juice Box, as well as the fallout from Money in the Bank as well. Orange Cassidy and his four-way match had a great run. Personally, though, the three big things. First, Sting, Darby Allin, and Naito winning their six-man was fun. Sting taking a 630, but not really supposed to. And then, the other night on Dynamite, taking an incredible leap from a ladder to a table on the outside, clearly busting his lip open, if not biting right through it. So, Sting, just hold yourself together and get one more solid singles match at All In and call it a career. You've done so much for AEW, WCW, NWA, hell, even WWE, TNA, of course. You don't need to prove anything else. Keep your body safe. Let's get one more solid singles run out of you, and then call it a career in ring. Okada Danielson was good. It was subpar to what I think they could have done. However, Danielson did break his wrist, like almost a clean break. Looks to be out at least 10 weeks, hopefully for a speedy recovery. I doubt he'll be back for All In. But hopefully he'll be back on the mend and back in the squared circle as we go towards the fall and potentially Full Gear. But of course, the elephant in the room, 39 minutes, 45 seconds. Will Ospreay defeats Kenny Omega by pinfall to win back the IWGP US title. This was one of the greatest matches I've seen on pay-per-view in a very, very long time. This had it all. It had brawling. It had great in-ring work. It had great selling by both. I know a lot of people are critical of guys like Omega and Ospreay having these matches and not selling and, all these things. The selling is there. It's not just gymnastics with blood. Like, there's so much good stuff in this match that I think if you watch it back, you'll see the little nuances, the intricacies of why these two are arguably two of the best wrestlers in the world today. Hell of a match. Seems like we might get a third match coming up at Wembley potentially, or at All Out. I'd love to see it at Wembley. That would be a hell of a match with that crowd, upwards of 60,000+ there. Obviously, the one of the biggest moves I've seen live, I screamed when it happened live, was Ospreay hitting Kenny Omega with the Tiger Driver 91. I never thought I'd see a Tiger Driver 91 performed live on a match. I've seen clips of New Japan guys hitting it. I've seen clips all throughout my life as a wrestling fan and never saw it live like that. And hopefully never see it again live because it was horrifying. But props to those guys. They tore the house down. Forbidden Door was great. We got Money in the Bank coming up tomorrow, 3 p.m. So you can follow me on Twitter, Juicy Steen. You can follow the show, juicysteen.podbean.com, iTunes, rate this thing 5 stars. Give it a review if you'd like. That'd be greatly appreciated. You can also find this show on Google Podcasts and, as always, on my Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. So and Josh Isenberg 4 on Twitter for Josh's Twitter there. Everything will be in the show notes underneath here. But as stated earlier, this is the Money in the Bank predictions, easy for me to say, but prediction show. Got a lot of great stuff to talk about, and hopefully you all enjoy it. So without further ado, here are Josh Isenberg and Juice Springsteen's Money in the Bank 2023 predictions right here on the Juice Box. And it's another pay-per-view PLE prediction show, but it wouldn't be a PLE prediction show without my guest at this time, Josh Isenberg. What's going on, buddy?
I am ready to bring the gin because you brought the juice. I'm excited. Money in the Bank, one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year. I would probably say second behind the Royal Rumble, and we're going into this event with a lot of really interesting matches, I think, Juice, and a lot of interesting choices for victors of these matches. So can't wait to discuss it with you here on the Juice Box. Thanks for having me.
As always, and I mean, you bring the gin, you bring the juice all the time, and not only can you bring home the bacon, but you can absolutely fry it in the pan. I'm very much looking forward to Money in the Bank. Now, I'm assuming you meant second favorite pay-per-view behind Royal Rumble, but number one is WrestleMania?
No, I'd say Rumble 1, Money in the Bank 2, WrestleMania 3.
WrestleMania is your third favorite show of the year? That's a hot take.
It's just because I think the Rumble is my favorite. Money in the Bank always just has, it has the, I guess, hope for what's going to count. Yeah.
But both Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank have a similar purpose of like something is like guaranteed for the future, and WrestleMania is like the culmination where it could be good, but if they don't know how to finish it, it's like, well, we got to redo it again.
Yeah,
so I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's more like guaranteed. You get a guaranteed Royal Rumble, you get a guaranteed, person, and all that excitement. And then with Money in the Bank, now we get 2 ladder matches, and that guarantee for the future. So let's tap into it. We got 7 matches. I think that's going to be it. I think initially last week I had mentioned 5 had been announced. Maybe 6 would be Matt Riddle and Gunther, and they did add that. But they also added a women's tag team title match. So we will go through all 7 matches and what our predictions are. This Saturday, 3 p.m., interesting start time. I'm a big fan of those. Quick sidebar, not love bar, but sidebar. Isenberg, are you going to Payback September 2nd in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I'll be there. I haven't gotten my tickets yet, but I'll find my way there. That's for sure.
I'm sure you will find your way. All right, let's get things kicked off with the match that just got announced. Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler defend their women's tag team championships against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Now, I don't know. Liv Morgan is back finally, but I tend to think that Raquel Rodriguez needs to get the hell out of the tag division and just start a singles run. So with that being said, I'm going to take Ronda and Shayna to continue their run as tag champs. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they continue to become the women's tag team champions. It's interesting because Liv coming back, she was only gone for 5 weeks or so. Never lost the title, so I think they're going to try to wrap that back up. I'm interested to see how the match ends because I think that this could be the beginning of a Raquel Rodriguez heel turn. I don't think we see her go full on attacking Liv Morgan if Liv ends up tapping out. But I think you're right. I think Raquel has the makings of being an incredible heel based on her size and her strength, but also being an incredible face because of her size and her strength. People love to see, women of strong stature, and she could really go one of 2 ways, turn heel and, kind of middle around mediocrity, so to say, as that, because the main heel, obviously, on Monday Night Raw right now for the women's division is Rhea Ripley. But I think that you could just see her getting frustrated with Liv and potentially just saying that's it and go off on her own. So a very small planting of the seeds of a more edgy Raquel Rodriguez. But yeah, Shayna, Ronda picking up the win here. And I'm interested to see if any of these 4 women get opportunities to face the women's champion in Rhea Ripley down the line, because I think that there's a lot of women on this roster that need to get that opportunity. And as much as we want to see the women's tag team division be built up, I don't like it being built up by random women that are paired together.
And you make a couple good points. I'll try to remember them as we get to them. What you just said, I like the tag division too, and I like that it elevates certain tag teams or certain solos that become tag teams. But in that same realm, I agree with you on the other point. All 4 of these women, I would love to see in a match against Rhea Ripley as a solo. I think Raquel, that was the third point I wanted to make, was Raquel not really having any character work. I don't know if she needs to be a face or a heel. Now, if you turn on Liv Morgan, I think you're going to definitely be a heel. So I don't know if she would definitely go straight to Rhea if that was the case. But I do think Raquel needs some sort of, I don't know, lack of a better term, an edge to her, something that's not just look at my physique and how massively strong I am. I think it needs to be a little deeper than that. And if we get that, then I think there's a future there. But as for the tag titles, you'd think that the team that beat Shayna and Ronda would be a team that's going to be there for a while. Now they just unified these. I don't know who, like, this. We're not there yet, obviously, but we're at the point of, who's going to beat Roman, who's going to beat Ronda and Shayna. And like you said, if they keep just smashing 2 women together as a team, it's going to be harder for everybody to believe that could happen. But if, maybe we get a tag team that's more sustained, then they could challenge and I'd buy it.
Yep.
But until then, no. Let's get into some singles gold. Let's do the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther, who is rapidly approaching the Honky Tonk Man's Intercontinental Championship reign, defending against Matt Riddle. Now, were they not a part of a triple threat recently when someone else was in there? I can't quite think.
Yeah, I believe so. I can't remember though.
Because I want to say that Matt Riddle and Gunther have been in the ring before. That's what I don't want to mess up.
Well, I know that they've been doing 6-man matches as well. He was the partner for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn when Riddle came back. But I'm not sure if they had a triple threat match for the title or anything like that.
Right, and Matt Riddle has been out for a bit, so now that he's back and he's kind of back into the fold, I like that he's getting this shot against Gunther. Now, again, I really don't foresee Gunther losing this title, at least as of yet. Now I'm looking, I don't see any interactions with Gunther recently. Maybe I'm thinking of him and Sheamus at WrestleMania a bit ago. But they did do the 6-man in May. But outside of that, I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a hard-hitting match. Like I said, I don't think anybody's going to take the title from Gunther, at least until he surpasses Honky Tonk Man, which I still don't know the dates. I think it would be after the Payback pay-per-view, maybe.
Okay.
Or he would surpass it maybe a week after, if I recall. I think it's sometime in September. So until then, I don't see anybody dethroning Gunther, because I do think that the next step for Gunther is a title of a bigger, higher prestige. So what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Yeah, I agree. I think, Gunther picks up the victory against Riddle in a really physical match. One of the things I always like about Riddle, watching him wrestle, is, he's not a small guy by any means. I mean, he's in shape, he's built, and he's a legit fighter. But the one thing I really enjoy about watching him compete in the squared circle is his ability to sell just as good, if not better, than anybody else I've seen in a very long time. I see him as a strong physical guy, a little bit bigger size, but also just as good as a seller as a guy like a Dolph Ziggler. And I think that this is going to be fantastic for him and Gunther to just put on a physical bout. Gunther's matches have been hard hitting, whether it was, his match with Kevin Owens on Raw, his match with Sami Zayn on Raw, even going back to his NXT days. But there's an opportunity here. If Gunther wins, Riddle loses. I mean, do we see a potential Randy Orton return this weekend? I mean, there's been rumors speculating about him coming back. How does Randy fit into this? And maybe, does Randy come back to pair with Riddle? Because they really didn't have a payoff, really. Or does he come back to go against Riddle? So there's a lot of juice on this bone for Riddle, because, when Randy went away, Riddle had some issues as well, came back, and it was kind of just like left unsaid. Like they talk about it every once in a while, but there's still a lot more story between those two guys. But at the end of the day, I think this match, Gunther picks up the victory here, and I think at SummerSlam he could potentially. Man, SummerSlam's what? A month after this. So
yeah,
they're going to have to find somebody big for Gunther to face at SummerSlam.
And I'll try to take what you said and apply it there. I think that at this point, Gunther has made the Intercontinental title so important.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing Riddle get beat down by Gunther, after the match by Imperium. I don't think Randy Orton, if he comes back, is going to turn at least immediately on Matt Riddle. So I can see him coming defense of Riddle and maybe going after Gunther at SummerSlam for the IC title. Gunther, he's a heavyweight, but wrestling in the Intercontinental, it's a no weight division. It's the Intercontinental heavyweight title. So to see Randy Orton in there, and of course he wouldn't necessarily have to win, but damn, you telling me you couldn't get a good solid match out of Randy Orton and Gunther in his first match back in God knows how long, and maybe that's where you start planting seeds of a heel turn, so where you can get them back into the fold if Randy's ready to come back on a more full-time basis. But I like what you said about Riddle selling. For a guy who literally was in the UFC and took real shots all the time, he knows how to sell, worked shots. I don't know how else to put it. His facial expressions are incredible. I really think that he's dialed into it well. And I know it's not the same as like a Logan Paul, a Bad Bunny, or the guys that aren't normally in the ring, Pat McAfee. But even those guys, like you see how they sell and how, Riddle was a guy who wasn't necessarily a wrestler, but now that he's in there all the time, it's so believable. And when you see the other guys that haven't been in for so long, you can see that they're trying to sell in a certain way, but they're just not there yet. And Riddle, for not being a traditional wrestler all these years later, now having such a great way of doing it, I really think it's a testament to all the work he's put in over the years. But Gunther definitely, I think, is going to take this one. I would agree. Let's move on to the first of two Money in the Bank matches, because I like to tackle some of the men's matches later on. Let's go women's Money in the Bank. We've got half of this Money in the Bank match for the women have arguably Hall of Famers. Zelina Vega versus Zoe Stark versus Io Sky versus Becky Lynch versus Bayley versus Trish Stratus. I don't know if you're aware, Trish, Bayley, and Becky were the three that I chose as the Hall of Famers potentially, at least as of right now. But the generations of talent that are in this, I love that Trish is getting in a Money in the Bank match. She was around when the Money in the Bank match was first instituted. But of course, the women didn't get involved until way, way later. So I love that dynamic. I really like Zoe Stark as a heater here. But now that we have Zoe and Trish in the match, I feel like one of them cancels the other out to where potentially an underdog, someone we're not talking about, could win. But I'm going to say that because Zoe and Trish are in the match, Zoe Stark will be women's Money in the Bank. What are your thoughts?
Wow. Okay. Well, this is the first time that we're going to disagree so far here. But I understand what you're saying. I get that. I think, Becky and Trish are going to face off, I think, at SummerSlam. That'll be their match. There's no need for one of them to hold the briefcase. I think Zoe actually and Zelina kind of eliminate themselves a little bit in this match somehow in some way. And I really think it comes down to Io and Bayley in the match. And I think that Bayley is going to win Money in the Bank. And the reason being is I can see her, it's every woman for themselves. And you've seen these small seeds already planted about Bayley and Io Sky potentially breaking up. And what better way to get heat on Bayley and to get face love on Io if Bayley screws over Io climbing the ladder. And then Bayley obviously pushes her off, and Bayley becomes Money in the Bank. And Io can be the type of person that's upset about that, right? Because everybody would, but at the same time, Bayley can say, well, it's every woman take all, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Yeah. So you're not completely breaking up the last two pieces of damage control. But I can also see the opposite. I can see Io screwing over Bayley, and the crowd goes crazy because the London crowd's going to absolutely love whatever really outcome. I mean, they loved Bailey back in the day in NXT, so they'll chant for some Bailey. You know, Io's always been loved kind of universally since being in WWE wherever they take her, and is somewhat of that, you know, underdog figure. But I think it comes down to those two because I think there's such a telling story there as well. And I'm excited to see this match because I could make a case for every single one in this match, maybe aside from Zelina, to win Money in the Bank. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to pick two, so I'm going to pick with one. And if I'm going to say what would be better storytelling juice, I think Bailey screws Io. Heel heat at that point is better than face love from the crowd.
And I don't really think you could go wrong either way if you're going to go the Io Sky or Bailey route, because they've been so tied together now. It's been wondered, like, will Bailey say, hey, I need to get out of this group, I need to be on my own? Or does Io Sky say, hey, we're bigger than what you began this with. I can take this over. I can be that next level, where maybe Io could push Bailey off early and establish that, hey, like you said, every woman for herself. And then Bailey is the one that ultimately does it when it's, you know, all the chips are there and she wins. I don't hate what you're saying there, but I just feel like the money is where Trish goes with Becky. I'm assuming that maybe Becky takes out Trish when Trish looks like she's going to win it, and then Zoe knocks off Becky and takes it. I just feel like Zoe got a lot going for her, even though she hasn't been here for too long. I think she's a strong presence. She reminds me of a Raquel Rodriguez with just the imposing stature, and she's believable. Yeah. And I really think that if the strike when the iron's hot, we'll get to the Money in the Bank for the men, because I think if someone's hot and it's their moment and you don't know when you could get these moments again, I say you pull the trigger and you send them to the moon. Yep. So I'm going to say Zoe Stark wins this Money in the Bank. And I guess we could talk about it now before we get into the other matches, but whoever wins either the men or women's ladder match, do you have a preference on when they'll cash in? Do you think these two in particular will have a certain time they'll cash in? Do you think they'll wait? Because they brought up now that they've done so many Money in the Bank matches. I don't know if you saw recently, they've done the by the numbers promo that they do for the Rumble, but they show, you know, percentages of people cashing in. You know, Seth Rollins is the only one that took it, I think, the furthest by taking it to WrestleMania. But Kane did it the same night, you know. So I don't know if it benefits anybody to do it at any certain time. I think it's all about the booking and how particular that is, and when the iron's hot. But what do you prefer?
No, I agree with that. I think the one thing that kind of bothers me a little bit about the cashing in for the women, they have made the women's cash in very fast. I mean, you look at Liv Morgan cashing in night of. You look at, I think, Bailey cashed in night of. You look at Nikki ASH, I think in a week or two, she cashed in fast. I think one of the longest ones for the women was actually Carmella, because she won the Money in the Bank briefcase, I think, in the summer of 2017 and didn't cash in until after WrestleMania 2018. I prefer at least a few months. I hate the night of cash in because the pay-per-view is already happening. You know, like you have already have eyes on this show. And you don't need more surprises in terms of a cash-in. So I prefer the cash-in to be, if I had to pick like a spot, I would say like 3 to 6 months. I mean, I would love if a cash-in would happen at like the Royal Rumble, because it totally shakes things up for the next 3 to 4 months going into WrestleMania. And there's not a lot of World Heavyweight Championship changes at the Royal Rumble historically. So I would say 3 to 6 months after winning Money in the Bank.
And not just, you know, let alone Royal Rumble, just after the Royal Rumble. As soon as the Rumble ends, it's like everything's a standstill pretty much until you get to WrestleMania. Royal Rumble is like that last chance, whether a title switches, as we've seen with Cena and AJ Styles, or, you know, someone wins the Rumble and like they're automatically in a title match. So I kind of like that. And, you mentioned Royal Rumble being that second, or these two being your first two pay-per-views that you look forward to every year. I almost really want to get on board with, hey, Royal Rumble happens, but someone cashes in Money in the Bank, where it changes, and depending on when you do it in the night, it changes, you know, immediately what you think. Like if the Royal Rumble, for instance, for the women happened at the beginning of the show, and you're like, okay, well, so-and-so could face this or this. And then by the end of the show, someone else is champion. You, out of nowhere, get a new chance at a different match at WrestleMania immediately. And I don't know. I kind of want to get on board with that. But again, it all depends on who's involved. With the men, it's tougher because you have Roman, who you probably won't challenge. So at least you have a new title, and we'll get to that one in a little bit. Let's go into the singles match between Dominic Mysterio and one Cody Rhodes. This is a detour for Cody, at least, as we still, first of all, don't know why Brock Lesnar attacked him after WrestleMania.
It's still the unanswered question.
It's the question that we'll be asking for years and years, as long as Roman's still champion. And now we get this little sidebar of Cody and Dom. And personally, I think it's pretty, I wouldn't say simple, but to me, I think there's an easy way to go about this. You got Cody and Brock 1-1. We haven't seen Brock in a little while. Dominic Mysterio has the most heat, arguably, in the company, arguably across wrestling, overall. What better way to get more heat across the pond in a venue that's going to be on fire this whole night? Again, we've talked about this with Backlash being international and like Clash of the Castle and these shows that no one, these venues and countries never get these shows. So their crowds are so just red hot.
Yeah.
So they're going to be going crazy for Cody and his entrance, and they're going to be just booing Dom out of the building. So to me, the money is somehow, some way, hey, Brock Lesnar could just show up. It's international. He can go wherever the hell he wants. He has his own jet. Somehow ends up costing Cody the victory, giving it to Dom. He can just like crawl to Cody and pin him. I don't care what it is. Whatever the cheapest way Dom can win, but make it a clean pin in the ring. You give Dom that win. Now, I don't know if you necessarily want to go Dom versus Seth at the next show at SummerSlam. Maybe it's too quick, but hey, if Seth beats Finn, here's another Judgment Day member. I like that. And then you obviously, the other part of it being you get Cody, Brock 3, which I assume they want for SummerSlam. And what I would assume, there have been rumors that it would be a gimmick match, one we haven't seen in a while. And I'm going to say the Texas Bull Rope, something that Dusty would be very, very proud to be a part of. So I don't see why Cody wouldn't want to do that. So give me heel Dom squeaking this victory out with the help of Brock Lesnar, setting up a lot for SummerSlam in Detroit. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree everything what you said there. So I'm not going to continue to talk too much about it. But I think either Lesnar shows up or Lesnar's music hits, distracting Cody just
they can
enough.
do that.
Yeah, just distract him just enough, And I think it's going to be great to see because I like the fact that we haven't seen Brock in about a month. And I like the fact that WWE was smart enough to realize by keeping Cody super over and super hot, let's pair him up with legitimately the biggest heat taker or heat, seeker in all of pro wrestling, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's garnering this much negativity, and it's awesome because he's just leading into it so well, but he's not overdoing it, which I think is a very tricky, a very slippery slope, not slippery Pete, but slippery slope. So I think Dom wins. I think, again, some shenanigans happens here. I don't have a problem with Dom facing Seth Rollins at SummerSlam, to be completely honest with, because that card is going to be stacked with other things, potentially a Roman championship match against one member of, his family. You have Cody and Brock, Trish, Stratus and Becky, So, but here's the only thing though: if he beats, we'll talk about Seth's match in a second. If Seth beats Finn, then it's Seth beating Damian, Seth beating Finn, Seth beating Dom. Where does the Judgment Day go from there?
And I think that's the key. I think that's what they might want is how can we dissolve the Judgment Day without just having them hate each other? Look, Damian Priest lost to Seth. Finn will probably lose to Seth. If Dom gets the chance, oh God, not like he's gonna win. Could you imagine if he won? Dom doesn't. Dom and Mommy with the titles would be unbelievable. And who the hell knows? Maybe it happens.
Who knows? Yeah.
Let's say Dom loses too. I think that's an organic way to say, hey, they're all done. You know what I'd like to see is if they're gonna dissolve, all three of them lost to Seth, what the hell? Let's put all three of them in a triple threat for some. You can come up with some other things to dissolve this. I mean, if you can dissolve the bloodline over the course of 3 years, I think you can establish some sort of triple threat or some sort of interesting concept of a match to kind of get that away. Because that's what I've been wondering with the bloodline. That's what I'm wondering with Judgment Day. After like the main pieces of this are over, right? Where do the Usos stand outside of the bloodline? Same with Roman, Solo. Where does Dom go? Does he stick with Rhea? You know, is this thing? Does Finn? Is Finn's last? Because we're going to come up to that next. Is this Finn's last chance at a world title? Will Damian Priest ever get to the main event again? Like, after you get out of this group that's got them to the point where they are, does WWE have, you know, ideas for them going forward to make sure they don't just fall off into obscurity? That's where I'm really curious to see where things fall over the next couple of months. But let's get into it. They did create a new title because Roman Reigns will never lose his. The World Heavyweight title, Seth freaking Rollins against Finn Balor. Now, Seth has defeated literally everybody so far. AJ Styles, Braun Breaker, Damian Priest, Carmelo Hayes. A lot of fun matches. And I love this. This is exactly what this title needed to be. Roman defends it, you know, whenever he needs to. I have no problem with it. He's on a legendary reign we might never, ever see again, pun intended. So if you're going to create a new title, have him wrestle all over the place. You know, I don't care. And this is, I guess, going to be a great match. They're running this match that they had at SummerSlam 2016 back for the Universal title. So this will be hopefully a redeeming match. Hopefully nobody gets injured. I expect a great 16 to 18 minute match here, but I got to say, I think Seth freaking Rollins takes it. What say you?
I think Seth takes it as well. I wouldn't hate if they did a title change to Finn, but I think it might just be a little too soon. You know, he just got the title a month ago. So it's really, you want to put credibility and establish a lengthy reign for a new championship and not have it play hot potato. I mean, this isn't the TNT championship that they're trying to recreate here. So it's more of they're really trying to establish the workhorse, and the workhorse is Seth. Nothing against Finn at all. And I think Finn's really done a great job over the past, 6 or 7 months, I feel, of being a heel. And I didn't think he would get here. I didn't think he'd get to a point where the majority boos him. Now he's going to go to London. And
that's
that
what
crowd,
I was going to say. The crowd's going to be on his side too, but you got Seth Rollins with arguably the most over crowd interaction across the board.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, you know, at the end of the day, my biggest thing here is Finn ends up losing. Is there dissension after that in the Judgment Day? Potentially, you know, do you start to see small cracks? But I got to give credit to Finn. Like I said, you know, Seth is Seth. He's doing great things, but Finn I believe him as a heel now. And I didn't think I'd actually believe him as a heel for the longest time because everybody loved Finn. But he's done a really great job at not needing to be the leader of the Judgment Day, but feeling like he is the leader. You know, he's the one that comes out first in front of the group, things like that. So, but I think Seth wins this match. And to be honest with you, if they don't want to do Dom at SummerSlam with Seth, I wouldn't mind maybe an interesting finish to this match to keep the door open for a potential rematch between these two at SummerSlam, because realistically, that's where this all started in 2016.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that either. Like I said, there's a lot of different avenues that they could go down. And as we're discussing this, I know it's very obvious, but I sometimes forget. You have all three members of the Judgment Day in 3 different types of matches. A world title match, a sidebar match, but has huge implications because he's with one of the biggest faces in the company. And then you have an opportunity because in an alternate universe, Finn Balor could win this title. Damian Priest could win Money in the Bank. And you could have and Dom could beat Cody and say, hey, I earned a right. And you could have that triple threat for the title at SummerSlam. There's a lot of things they could do.
A lot of options, yeah.
So that's why, you know, with this Triple H regime, although some people might say he hasn't been as on the pulse lately, and maybe Vince is still lingering like a dust bunny after years and years of no vacuuming. But but we'll see. But yeah, I like Seth in this match. Like I said, I think the crowd's going to love Finn, but I think it's going to be too much for Finn to handle. Yeah. Do we see, not Demon, but do we see just regular Finn Balor here? Nothing too crazy? I only say that because I remember him in Texas and he came out as the Demon, but he had the chainsaw and everything. Something for London here?
I don't think so. I think he just does. I mean, he did his London thing too, didn't he? At NXT, he's done a lot of
unique entrances.
Based on location and venue.
Yeah.
Now, I think you get regular Finn here. You don't want to overdo it. We had Demon Finn at WrestleMania.
And we could probably save it for that.
Yeah, if you needed to bring him back or something like that. I mean, but the thing is, like, it's really cool to see, but he doesn't have a good track record being the Demon. He lost to
Edge on the main roster. Yeah,
not on the main roster. He lost to Roman. He lost to Edge. He lost. Yeah, so I don't think so. But this match is just going to be a good, really strong physical championship match that I think a lot of people like both guys. But at the end of the day, Seth freaking Rollins is still the face of Monday Night Raw.
I tend to agree with that. Now we've got, 2 more matches to discuss here. Let's go to arguably the biggest match, but I'm going to save Money in the Bank for last because this is the namesake of the pay-per-view. But I can't think of a better tag match to be on this show than the Bloodline Civil War. It's been 3 years. Now, we mentioned Payback earlier. I will find it very interesting if they do something as long as Roman's still champion by September, which I have no reason to believe he won't be.
Yeah.
Payback 2020 is when Roman became Universal Champion, and that began the entire reign, the Bloodline thing. Everything began there. So I'm curious once we get to September, even though it's a couple of months away, if they'll do something similar to the 1,000-day celebration, or they're going to acknowledge that this is the show that he did in his 3 years of this. So that'll be interesting. But Bloodline now is dissolved. We've got the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, who I believe 10 or 11 years ago, or multiple years after that, were on the pre-show for this type of pay-per-view. And now they're in arguably the biggest match on the show, taking on the Bloodline of Roman Reigns, or what's left of the Bloodline, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, Paul Heyman in tow. It all depends on what you think is going to happen at SummerSlam. I would love to see Solo Sikoa break away and have his opportunity at Roman, potentially with Paul Heyman at his side, but I think there's still a lot of time for that to develop. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen yet. And I'm just, I really am at a loss for words with what I think going forward is going to happen with Roman. I don't know if Cody's going to fight him ever again. Who does Roman face at SummerSlam? Is it just the Money in the Bank guy? So I have no idea. But in this particular match, if I had to go for a safe bet, I'm going to say the Usos get the win here. I don't know what it takes, but the Usos are a tag team. They're brothers. Yeah. Like this is their bread and butter. And I know it's Roman, and I know Solo is technically an Uso too. He's their brother as well. But without being on their team, I don't think that it's going to coexist as well. So I'm going to take the traditional tag team of Jimmy and Jay winning this match, setting up potentially Jay, I would say more so than Jimmy, to face Roman at SummerSlam. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Jay. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think Jay pins Roman. I think
Jay pins Roman.
I think Jay pins Roman. Yeah. And I think what happens is Jay pins Roman thanks to a miscommunication, let's say, between Solo and Roman. Because I think to get a championship match for Jey Uso, he's going to have to say, I did this. I earned this. And what better way than pinning Roman Reigns, who nobody has done. And again, it doesn't matter if Roman gets pinned, to be honest with you. Like, we're not talking about how many days he hasn't been pinned. Right. We've been talking about how many days he's been champion. That's really all that matters. And the last person to pin Roman, Baron Corbin. And nobody really cares about that, right? So I think Jay should pick up the victory on Roman. The only other alternative that I can think of is if they do want Roman and Solo to pick up this victory, that you have Solo hitting the spike on either Jimmy or Jay, Roman tagging himself in to pick up the victory for his team. And that, again, causes just a little bit of angst because we saw whenever Roman bumped shoulders with Solo, Roman looked spooked. So that's a way to build a little nervous. Yeah. So he spooked him a little bit. So at the end of the day,
a little nervous on the weekends.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a really good backup, I guess, solution if you want to go with Roman and Solo. But if that happens, there's no way you're doing Solo and Roman at SummerSlam because they're still on the same team. So they could pivot and find a way for Jay and Jimmy, Jay or Jimmy to get a championship match against Roman. Maybe they beat Solo to get to Roman on a SmackDown or some sorts like that. But I think you have, again, there's no bad solution or not solution. There's no bad choice here, I think.
Right,
for which way you want to go.
My thing is, and I agree with most of what you said, but I think ultimately to get to SummerSlam where I think we're both on the same page would be if there is some sort of miscommunication, but it's Solo taking the pin from Jay. And Jay, two things here. Jay was the first person to score a pinfall over Roman Reigns way back in 2013 or 2014, I want to say. And then Roman Reigns never pinned Jay in their match, their Hell in a Cell I Quit match. So I think there's a lot there, and I agree with what you said, where Jay could say, "Hey, I pinned, I pinned Solo, but we beat you. Give me this chance again. It's been 3 years. Give me this redemption." If Solo takes the pin, that pisses Roman off more.
Yeah.
And I think Roman, I don't know if there's more of a chance that Solo breaks away from Roman on his own, or more of a chance that Roman wants to disassociate with Solo because he couldn't cut it either. The Usos lost their titles. Solo couldn't help him win this. I'm the only one that's been able to do anything around here, and I think he's alienating everybody. Potentially, he could alienate. That's what I'm getting at. He could alienate Paul Heyman by doing this, and that's where he could get into some interesting territory. But I think ultimately the Usos take this. I think it's going to be a fantastic match, though.
Yeah, I do too.
One that the crowd's definitely going to be hot for.
Does this main event the show?
Oh boy. Well, when the match gets a tagline, it's tough for me to think it shouldn't. But
I think
it's Money in the Bank. I think you could get away with a Money in the Bank ladder match going on before this, because you get 2 Money in the Bank matches, so it's not like you get one, you're still gonna have another one unless you're gonna cash in. And the order of matches is a fascinating thing. Same with Royal Rumble, although no one cashes their Royal Rumble thing in immediately. They wait till WrestleMania. But depending on how that all goes, at least on the women or the men's side only, if that opens, you never know. But I would say that the Bloodline Civil War would go on last, and I really don't think there's an issue with that.
I agree.
But let's get into what I think is going to be the most fascinating match of the evening, outside of the Civil War, of course.
Yeah.
Where, maybe Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, L.A. Knight, Santos Escobar, Butch, Damian Priest, and Logan Paul, because he just wants to be in the match. What the hell? Let him in the match. You wanted to have a shot at Roman for the title? Give him a shot at Roman for the title. You want a Money in the Bank shot? Go. He's going to enter the Royal Rumble next, I'm assuming. He can just do whatever he wants. But Money in the Bank, 7 guys. We've had 6. We've had 8. I swear there was a year where they had 10.
I believe they did. Yeah.
7 is right in the meaty part of the curve for Money in the Bank. So, man, I've been going back and forth on this, and I always mention that with AEW, depending on if it's someone debuting or a certain storyline is going to end a certain way, whenever there's a really obvious option, AEW, for better or worse, and more often than not, takes that road. I always say the big one is, okay, you got Darby Allin, who's this, upstart guy. He's face painting everything. But if a legend was going to come in and help him, who would it possibly be? And then Sting shows up in AEW, and it's like, man, I wonder if Sting should go with Darby Allin. They both face paint. It all lines up. It's so easy, but I don't know. They might not do it, but they did it. When someone's super hot, super over, a lot of people say, hey, strike when the iron's hot. Do it now. You don't know when it's going to happen again. Kofi, Daniel Bryan, certain things. dictate that. And LA Knight is that guy right now, and he is not getting any younger. And I think you can eliminate Butch, you can eliminate Santos Escobar, you probably can eliminate Shinsuke Nakamura.
Mm-hmm.
Damian Priest has an outside shot purely because of the allegiance he has with Finn, like I said, with the world title, and Dom, and just the fact that the Judgment Day is still very prominent. It's the Raw bloodline, It's that's their big faction. The story, like I said, it's 3 matches that have those guys in it, so it's clear that they're an important part of Raw every single week. So outside of him, then I would say Ricochet would cancel Logan Paul out if Logan Paul's not going to win, because they had their incredible spot at the Royal Rumble. I'm assuming they're going to have an unbelievable spot here at Money in the Bank. But I would not hate if they cancel each other out and we get a Logan Paul Ricochet match at SummerSlam as like an athletic showcase. You want to talk 5 stars at Forbidden Door? Put me at Ford Field with Logan Paul and Ricochet and let me see what they got going on. so that leads me to believe that LA Knight is the guy. Is he 40? How old is he? I'm clicking. He's 40. He turns 41 in November.
Yeah.
DDP was world champion at 45. You want to hit before it's too late. And LA Knight's as hot as he's going to be. If he's not the planned guy going into the match, once the crowd has his entrance hit, you're going to change the creative and LA Knight's going to win. I'm going with LA Knight. It has to be, right?
So I think it has to be. If not, I think the crowd's going to go crazy. Like, why not? Because they know just how, hot he is. And he's going to be, you said he's 40 years old. Yeah. So, I mean, realistically, that's definitely not young for a first-time potential world champion. But, I mean, we've had guys like, Batista was older. AJ Styles was obviously in every other promotion before coming to WWE. He won it, I think, at like 39 years old. So there have been guys in their mid to late 30s, early 40s that won their first championship, at that quote extended age.
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, whenever I see this core of individuals, I'm interested because I think that LA Knight should win. I think if you want your return on investment on a star, then you give Logan Paul that briefcase. He doesn't have to be around every month. He can pop in and out, and he can still have a match at SummerSlam against Ricochet as Mr. Money in the Bank. And you can potentially have him tease a cash-in at SummerSlam. But, I mean, realistically, when you think about it, after SummerSlam, you have, September, then October, November, there's probably a Saudi show. I think they do another Saudi show, like in the fall, right?
Well, we got Payback, but they announced something in October in Indianapolis.
Oh, Fastlane, right?
Fastlane. So then November will be Survivor Series. Unless December has a Saudi show, it could be empty until Royal Rumble.
Yeah, or Saudi in February because they had Elimination Chamber there a couple of years ago, right? 2 years ago.
But, true. Yeah.
So what I'm saying, so I mean, at the end of the day, though, as a pure fan of wrestling, I think LA Knight should win. You got to go when the iron's hot with somebody. I mean, he is just unbelievable in every facet. I loved him as, Eli Drake in Impact. Yeah. I thought he was fantastic there. And then
I was a fan of him in NWA. Yeah.
And NWA as well. Yeah, exactly. And then obviously in NXT, he was great in NXT. He didn't last long in NXT, but looking at his career, I mean, now is the time for him. But I can honestly say, if Logan Paul wins, I get it. I get it if Logan Paul wins because this is a guy that will be a world champion for WWE whenever he does not need WWE at all, and only does so much more for WWE from a global perspective if this guy can cash in at any time.
And not just cashing in at any time, but just him being the Money in the Bank holder. God, any appearance he can make, he could just take that briefcase. You don't think they would milk the hell out of that?
Every video he takes,
everything. He could carry that Pokemon card in that briefcase. He could carry anything. He could carry Prime bottles in that briefcase. Like, there's a lot of opportunities there. It's just frustrating that it could come at the expense of an LA Knight who's actually legitimately hot, ready to roll and go. To me, then, if LA Knight will win, Logan Paul never needed the briefcase to, have that momentum. And he'd be fine either way.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
But I do see not only with the briefcase, but if Logan Paul, first of all, that'd be, he had his match with Roman and it was close and competitive. But if it's not Roman as champion, I think Logan Paul could, in theory, beat somebody to win. But having the briefcase almost guarantees you a win. And that's like the best way, I think, if you wanted Logan Paul to, I don't care how long it is. David Arquette was world champion. It doesn't really matter to me. Logan Paul could be WWE champion, and it would do something for the WWE title that had never really been achieved before. Someone with so much popularity, positive or negative publicity rather, that's not truly in the company.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that's not even like, quote, in the company is WWE champion, I think would be unbelievable to WWE. And I think that they see that, and I think they're probably weighing it, or they did, if they have the decision already made, like we are, where you could see the wrestling side of it, of where LA Knight is such a perfect person to have that case, and he's going to walk out with it and do his shtick and be great. But Logan Paul could elevate the Money in the Bank, could elevate the title to the levels we might never, ever see again.
Yeah.
In regards to the worldwide of it all.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they go with this pay-per-view because, again, they have 1 month until SummerSlam. So a lot of things that happen here are going to trickle over into SummerSlam, which ideally is their biggest pay-per-view, of the summer. And it's just the timing, the location of Money in the Bank is always great this year. So interesting decisions to be made. So we'll see what happens here, Juice. I'm excited. I
am too. So just to be clear though, who is your pick for Money in the Bank for the men? You have one choice.
Logan Paul.
Okay, I'll stick with LA Knight. I like the.
I hope you win.
I hope I do too. But as I say that, for all the popular choice, it would be for LA Knight. You say with the crowd and everything. But how much heat would it be if Logan Paul won?
A lot of Dom heat.
I was going to say Dom heat. It would be just a Dom should be in the match too. God, just put all the heels in there. Just have everybody boo the whole damn match. But this show should be fun, man. 3 p.m. start. I love these Saturday shows. Looking forward to it. And every time we do these prediction shows, it just gets me, triple, quadruple hype for it. Because I know that just these are the shows now. They seem more important than they have been. Like I said, for this regime for Triple H, ever since Clash of the Castle, I swear I have been more attentive to the PLEs that have happened because it just seems like there's something new, a new ripple, a new interesting wrinkle to any storyline or match. And I'm honestly unsure of a lot of these outcomes. And that's literally all I want as a wrestling fan who, as a 30-year-old guy, I've seen how many different matches, how many different things. I could predict so many different things. But now, if I'm guessing, that's exactly where I think they would want me as a fan. So if they've got me like that, I'm assuming they hook a lot of other people. And it seems like they got you hooked too. Are you looking forward to this as much as I am?
Oh, of course I am, Big Daddy. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a great show. And again, it's just the unpredictability and the plethora of new individuals in these 2 big Money in the Bank ladder matches. That look at the men's. No former world champions, right? Like there's not been a world champion that's in that Money in the Bank ladder match for the men's side. The women's, obviously, you have Trish, you have Becky, but you also and Bailey, but you also have Io and Zelina.
Brand new.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a pro wrestling fan, and WWE continues to strike while the iron's hot, and they're on a string of every pay-per-view I've seen, as you said, since Clash of the Castle, maybe since SummerSlam, because I think SummerSlam last year was really the beginning of a big turn, but every one, there's always something. So yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to it, and it's been real. It's been real.
It has been real. And like you said, but one last thing, with Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank being so unpredictable, and you said those are your 2 favorite, this is the Royal Rumble of the summer. Money in the Bank, now that they've strategically placed it, I think that was a masterful way to do it. You got Royal Rumble, boom, WrestleMania, and that's like in one bubble. Because Royal Rumble is for Mania. Money in the Bank could take you to Mania. It could take you to Money in the Bank. It could take you to that night. So you really don't know, and it leads you to the WrestleMania of the summer, which is SummerSlam. But that's all we've got today. This has been fantastic. I love discussing these predictions with you, Josh. It's fun every single time we get to do it, and we'll get to do it again in about a month for SummerSlam. So
that's right.
Appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you, man. Always a pleasure. And yeah, pencil me in for SummerSlam. Can't wait to jump back on here.
That's right. And as always, you can find this show on iTunes. Find me on Twitter at Juicy Steen. You can follow him at Josh Isenberg 4. And this has been the Money in the Bank Prediction Show right here on the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.